welcome back to the channel. Now today we're going to get straight into it. Today is Destiny Behemoth Part 1, and I'm really excited to have you guys here. This is such a cool unit, and there's a lot to talk about, so let's get straight into it. Now a little story time for everyone. I was using that unicab with that mammal, right? And I use it to record and write all these demos and stuff. And I take that board apart and I bring it over here, and I'd have to rebuild the board, and then I'd have to take that board apart and run back over here to, you know, write more demos or whatever. And I just got tired of doing that, and it kind of planted the seed of like, man, maybe I should do some sort of like all-in-one thing. And then my family had a road trip planned to go to South Dakota, and I knew there was going to be a lot of downtime once we got there. So I told my wife, I'm like, hey, bring my guitar, I'll bring an amp, a little pedal board. And she was like, no, what are you? Who are you? No. So I scrambled because I was like, I need to play some guitar. I can't go 10 days no playing guitar. Come on, what am I? So I had this enclosure downstairs. I bought it because I just thought it looked cool, you know, these walnut sides, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it. So I started getting at it, right? And here I came up with Destiny Behemoth. So let's get into this thing. We're running Stratocaster straight into the front here. Now, this is so much fun. So I'm going straight into a fuzz, right? You know, because your guitar likes to see that fuzz signal first, right? And then from the fuzz, I go to my first effects loop. Now, I have 3 effects loops in here, and all they are is just switch jacks. If I don't have something plugged in there, the signal passes through. But I put these in positions where I knew that I'd be adding other effects, because it looks like I have a few of them to spare, right? So this one I kind of use for like overdrives or modulations, right? But I come out of this first effects loop into a Boss OC2 clone, and then from there I go back out to this effects loop, again, modulation, overdrives, or whatever. Out of that into my first clean amp, and then from the clean amp I go to the dirty amp. From the dirty amp I go to the unicab, cabinet simulator. From the cabinet simulator I go to my last effects loop, which more often than not I use to patch in delays. Kind of a delay junkie, so I got a number of them here to mess around with. Then from the return of there, I go right into a reverb, right? And it's a really great sounding reverb. And I don't ever use a lot of it, but it sounds really nice, doesn't it? And then from the reverb, I split the signal. I go to the mono out, which is what you're hearing, because that's going straight into my DAW. And then the other signal goes into this big knob here, which is a headphone amp. Now the headphone amp is really great because I can slap on headphones, whittle away, and I'm not bothering anybody. And I know it's great for doing stuff like... No one wants to hear that shit, right? But it's great if I can put a click on there, right? Wait a minute, how would I put a click on there? Oh yeah, I have an aux in too. So that's what I really love, is I can patch in my iPad, my phone, a metronome, anything. Not that I patch in a metronome a lot, clearly, but I get to play around with all those different sounds and then jam and stuff and recreate things. But yeah, so that's kind of it. That's Destiny Behemoth in a nutshell. So let's get into some sounds, and then I'm going to kind of go through all the build and everything. Now, one thing I am going to do is patch in a really great delay so you guys can just makes things a little less dry, right? Come on, it's not the 1800s. We might as well get a little wet here, boys and girls. Okay, so there we go. That is your basic clean sound. Now, I'm just going to show off some of the effects that we didn't see last week, and then kind of get into the build, because that's why we're all here, right? Now, this is a great fuzz. So let's just get straight into it. Neck pickup. It's a fuzz, man. It sounds really cool. And of course, this one's got a million options on it. All right, so now we're gonna patch in this this octave pedal. Now, one of my favorite guitar players is Warren Haynes, and when he did his run, the early Government Mule stuff, live, he would always solo, and a lot of times you'd hear him turn on this Boss OC2 to kind of thicken up the sound a little bit. But it like, oh, it just does something. It's such a fun pedal. And of course, the other thing is nice is if you dial out the dry signal and crank up the octave, you can, you know, how cool, right? And that's what I like about it is, especially when I just record, I can just lay down like a very generic bass thing, because why get up and walk 8 feet that way to grab a bass, right? But this is then, from there, of course, this is the clean sound. All right, we're gonna get into the Marshall thing, kind of heavy, kind of weird. Right, very neat stuff, okay? Go back to that clean sound, and then of course we have our reverb and our delay, right? So that's kind of get really wet here. Now really what I like to do though is use this volume as almost like a master volume so I don't overload the front end. And I don't know if you saw me flick this before, but that's an on-off switch, just a dry mute. Okay, so there you go. Those are kind of some of the sounds that I have from Destiny and Behemoth. Now let's take a quick second. Let's flip it over and let's see the guts. Let's see them guts. Let's see them guts. Let's see those nuts. All right, so this is a Hammond enclosure with walnut sides.
What did you say?
Precisely. And you know, they're normally like this really industrial gray. So I primed it after I drilled and then put black on the whole thing and then used painter's tape to make these lines. And then used a brush to put on, this is color changing paint. And it's kind of hard to see, but it does go from like a gold to a like a reddish kind of thing. So now one more thing I would like to talk about is these knobs. I made all these knobs using dowel rods, which it wasn't kind of the best idea, I guess, because end grain, something, wood, blah, 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 I don't know. But at any rate, I think they look really neat, and I wanted to stick with the wood knobs, the wood sides, to keep this whole 70s vibe rolling. And then I used those inserts. You can get those inserts at Love My Switches. So I had to buy a special drill bit, 10 millimeter drill bit, I think it was, to drill the holes, and then set the little thingy in there. And yeah, it took forever. It was a labor of love, right? But I got a cool jewel here, right? So flipping this over is where the madness really starts, okay? This is being our input jack. We're coming right into this Moon Electronics fuzziness, right? And then I'm using a Madbean Softy soft switching, which is something I wanted for everything. I wanted everything to have soft touch switching so it wouldn't be clickety-clacking, all right? Now, again, this wiring mess isn't terrible. You know, all my pedal builds are pretty clean and everything, but where it gets really weird is we have a couple things I want to point out, okay? So right here, this is all my grounds, and right here is all my positives. So in the back, I have 4 power jacks. They're all wired together, and what I do with that is I run the one spot into there, and then with those other 3, those can power the other 3 effects that are in those effects loops. That way I'm not having to bring multiple power supplies or, you know, working around with multiple power supplies. That's what was my biggest goal, was I can use one spot and these little jumper, you know, cable thingies to power my other effects, right? So I have all of my positive 9 volts coming into here, and that's all grouped together. Same with the grounds, try to keep things together. And then So back here is, again, my headphone out and my aux in, which are stereo jacks. And again, it's a mono signal, but just giving a stereo spread, okay? And then this is my, actually, to be honest, that's my second, what do you call, strip board that I've ever done, and it worked. I don't know how. I was like, yes. So it is such a cool unit, though, to have this little thing here, and that's just kind of free floating. It's not settled down by anything. And then, okay, so there we go. We go into this, this is the pedal PCB Ocelot. And then when I was talking about that unicab mammal combination, I was talking to my friend Stefan of BigNoise Amplification, and he designed up a couple of those boards, and that's what I have here. So this is my clean, my dirty, and the cabinet simulator. Again, another softy relay, and then this is the reverb with a belt and brick there. So that's kind of Destiny Behemoth Part 1 all together, right? There's so much to show off. There's so much to talk about with it, and I hopefully got through it. And it's a really cool build, but I've already upgraded to Destiny Behemoth Part 2, which is coming next week, so we got to figure out what to do with this. I'm thinking maybe we auction it off or give it away or something. Get it moving around, someone can use it, all right? Maybe we'll put it on a tour or something. I don't know. Just have fun with this crap, right? So there you go. Destiny Behemoth Part 1.